சிவா திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். நம பார்வதீபதையே கரகர மகாதேவா. தென்னாடுடைய சிவனை போற்றி, எந்நாட்டவர்க்கும் இறைவா போற்றி. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். I take pleasure in worshipping the golden feet of Sri Guru Maha Sannidhanam, who holds the 24th Guruvida of Thirukkayilaya Parambarai, Meykanda Santhaanam, Thiruvavaduthurai Aatheenam, with the grace of Sri Gnanama Nadaraja Perumaan, Aatheenam Guru Mudalvar Sri Namashivaya Murtigal, and Aatheenam Kuladevam Srimat Madhava Sivanyana Yogigal, with my mind, speech, and body. Today we are going to discuss on the topic of the Sivaboda life of Sri Manickavasagar. In the seminar, which is being held online by the divine instruction of Sri Guru Maha Sannidhanam on the occasion of Ani Maham, Sri Manickavasagar Perumaan Guru Pooja 2025. We, the souls who have taken birth in this world, should break the birth cycle to reach the holy feet of Lord Shiva and live happily forever. Siddhanda Shastras are the ones that explain the methods for this. The path shown by these in the true path of Sariyai, Kiriyai, Yogam, and Jnanam. Among these four holy paths, the fourth one is Jnanam, that is wisdom. This will be made possible through the grace of the Sadguru as an experience. This kind of knowledge and experience is specially known as Sanmarkam. The divine history of Sri Manickavasagar Perumaan shows how great this path is. We can realize this supreme principle without doubt by reading the scriptures and the divine story of Sri Manickavasagar Perumaan. Lord Shiva has established the Sivanyana Sadguru Parambarai in the world in order to bless those who realize that and follow that practice. Our Thiruvavaduthurai Aatheenam is such a divine grace station. The Thirupperundurai temple, also known as Aludayar temple, belongs to the Thiruvavaduthurai Aatheenam. Here, Sri Manickavasagar Perumaan, the Jnana Marka Acharya of Saivism, resides and blesses with his blessings. We should know the divine life of Sri Manickavasagar Perumaan and how he followed the path of Sivaboda, attained the state of Siva Saichya Mukti, and blessed people like us. Sri Guru Maha Sannidhanam has issued the order of grace with a high intention that everyone in the world should know and benefit from this. The Pandya kingdom is the oldest and most prominent in South India. Its capital is Madurai, a proud city where Meenakshi, Sokkanadar, and Murugaperumaan ruled. Thiruvavaduthurai is a place about 7 miles east of this city. It is located on the north bank of the Vaigai River. Many Brahmins lived in this town. Among them, there was a Sivanadiyar who was following the path of Saivism, Sambubada Irudaya with his wife, Sivanyanavadi Ammayar. Thiruvavaduthurai is the one who took incarnation due to the penance done by them. By the age of 16, Thiruvavaduthurai had mastered all 64 of the arts. The Pandya king, who was pleased with his academic skill and maturity of knowledge, gave him the title of Tenavan Brahmarayan and kept him with him as his prime minister. Under his scepter, the Pandya kingdom flourished. The Thiruvavaduthurai, who held high positions in the world, acquired the research knowledge of the soul through past karma. What is the relationship between the body and the soul? What is the relationship between the body and the soul? Will all the body things that arise after we born into this world go away with this body? Or will they continue on after? What is the soul like that enters this body and experiences the body and its inner parts as its womb? And the various pleasures and pains that we lived and experience after we born, this world and worldly things that give them to us, and the body and us as a soul. What are the aspects that give us these experiences. How do all these things come to us? Various thoughts. We cannot fix the body on the inner organs. The inner organs are also unintelligent. They cannot reach us and fix us with ourselves. So, whose job is to infuse the soul into the body and make it live, eat, sleep, and dress in the world? Is there anyone who does all this? If there is, what is his nature? Why should he fix the body and the soul? What happens to this connection after the soul leaves the body? The world brings happiness and misery to the body. Similarly, in the same way, what does it bring to the soul? What we get in the end? Is it happiness or misery? Thiruvavaduthurai. All the pleasures that appear in the world are perishable and ultimately turn into suffering. Where is the imperishable pleasure? Imperishable pleasure. He explored how to attain it. The Veda says that the bliss of liberation is that imperishable bliss, and that is attainable only by the true devotees who have attained Satinibada. Satinibada means power, God's grace, and Nibadam means fall. That is, it can be interpreted as the wisdom or awareness that is bestowed upon the soul by the grace of God. Brahmaraya knew that the Lord would come as a guru and enlighten only those who have attained Satinibada. He realized that trying to understand with his research knowledge was like swimming across the ocean with his hands. He knew that, like a boat that helps to cross the ocean, the Guru would remove ignorance, enlighten us, and give us eternal bliss. The desire to attain such a Sadguru overwhelmed him. When will the souls trapped in the ocean of births and deaths and suffering realize this and be free, see the golden feet of God, and attain salvation? Where, when, and how can the Sadguru, the good guide, who shows the way to reach this stage, be found? He searched. At the same time, Brahmaraya was assigned to go to the eastern seaboard to buy horses for the Pandyan troop. On the way, when he reached Tirupavaduthurai, an indescribable joy filled Brahmaraya's heart. He felt an instinctive feeling that this is where my Sadguru has arisen. He reached Tirupavaduthurai. Without realizing it, both his hands were raised to his head. Tears of joy welled up in his eyes. Then the fourth stage of Satinibadam fell upon him. Having attained the fourth state of Satinibadam and reached Tirupavaduthurai, the Swamigal heard the sound of Siva Siva resounding like the ocean. He came to know what it was. He quickly went there. There was a Kurunda tree, like the stone banyan tree where Neelakanta sat. Under it, the Vedas on one side, the two Sivagamas on the other side, and the Puranas and religious texts were happening on each side. There, group of students who had understood the four certainties of virtue, wealth, pleasure, and liberation mentioned in the Shrutis, and the four principles of Sariyai, Kiriyai, Yogam, and Jnanam, which the Agamas describes as unique to other scriptures, were studying and questioning each other. The devotees were skilled in the art of Sariyai. The offerings who perform the Kriyai, the companions who know the Siva Yoga, and the gurus who impart the knowledge of Shiva appeared radiantly. Others, with eyes free from attachment, were seen as those who, because they were always seeing the divine form of Lord Shiva, did not see the objects of the world and were seen as those who wandered blindly despite having eyes. You know what their life skills were? A single breechcloth was their clothing. Food was carried by hand. Shiva devotees were their relatives. Rudraksha was their ornament. In a time when there was no day or night, where the ground was their mat, they slept without sleeping and found happiness in a place where there was no beginning, middle, and end. While the great devotees, Siddhas, Yogis, and Jnanis were sitting in this way, in the midst of them, under that small tree that spread out like a vast expanse of fullness, surrounded by stars and shining brightly, there stood a divine figure, the Aryan who cut the bonds and loves. You know what his pure body looked like? It was like a pure golden flame, the golden feet that bestow grace on the beloved and bring joy to the true devotees. A long holy feet that came to earth and bestowed grace. Of those 2 feet, the left foot was placed on it, and the right foot was folded upon top of it. There was a book in his left hand. You know what book it is? You know what book it was? A philosophical book called Sivaboda. To illustrate its true meaning, the right hand of the Lord was showing the Chin Mudra. The pure white Thiridiru brightly on the Lord's chest, which was adorned with a garland of flowers. The 9-thread Punul cord was like a small snake lying in the Tiruniru. Beautiful Rudraksha chain were adorned on the body, hands, and chest. The 2 ears were adorned with earrings. The 2 ears were adorned with earrings. A smile that could captive the eyes appeared on the Lord's face. As soon as he saw it, his 2 eyes, which were filled with the grace of releasing all those who saw it, shone with a radiant light. The holy ash, Tiruniru, which looked like 3 crescent moons staked one on top of other, appeared beautifully on his forehead. His hair was tied up. Brahmaraj was delighted to see his Acharya Murti. He felt that the divine form of the Lord who danced in joy in Sidambaram, and the divine form of the first Guru Murti who sat under the stone banyan tree and preached the Vedas, were the divine form of this one here. He fell at the holy feet of the Acharya Murti like a tree without roots. The Acharya Murti commanded him to rise, and he rose, requesting, "Accept me with grace." In a decorated golden hall, seated on a high seat facing south, as the Guru Murti who protects and saves his devotees, wearing a garland of flowers and sandalwood, with his left leg down and his right leg folded on top of it. He saw the discipline and maturity of Brahmaraya. Brahmaraya dedicated his entire body, mind, and soul to the Acharya Murti, and the Acharya Murti accepted the same. Keeping him in front of him, he tested and distinguished the 6 attvas, namely 11 mantras, 91 padas, 51 akaras, 224 bhuvanas, 36 tattvas, and 5 kalas. The Acharya Murti performed Nayana Diksha by seeing the darkness of the Anavam that had hid Brahmaraya's knowledge with his holy eyes. After that, he placed his holy hand on Brahmaraya's head and performed Sparisha Diksha to remove the dirt of Kanvam and Maya. This is called Astamastaka Samyogam in Sanskrit. What is that? Astamastaka Samyogam. He covered Brahmaraya with a beautiful garment, preached him the sacred mantra, and took his soul under his control, directing it to the experienced life. directing it to experience life and bliss within, transferring it to his perfect form, filled with pure space without any movement inside or outside. The inner organs of Brahmarayar, that is Pasu Karanangal, were removed and turned into Siva Karanangal. The Guru Murti gave Upadesam to Brahmarayar about the truth of three elements. Having received the Upadesam, Brahmaraya shone as the sun of knowledge. Tears of joy flowed from his eyes like streams. His mind melted like a wax put on fire. And he sang the praises of Guru Murtis. Since his verses were sweet, had the ability to melt the minds of the listeners and make them his own, and shone like a gem with the light of grace, the Acharya Murti gave him the Diksha Nama of Manickavasagar. Manickavasagar, who received the Diksha Nama, helped with the material he had brought to buy a horse horse as per the Acharya Murti's order, by giving them to the Aranpani and Adiyarpani. Aranpani refers to the renovations done to the temple of Lord Shiva, and Adiyarpani is the service rendered to the devotees of Lord Shiva. The escorts that came with Manickavasagar looked on with patience. Manickavasagar had completely forgotten himself. They tried to remind him several times that he should buy a horse and go to Madurai. Manickavasagar was not in a position to understand it. Finally, the escorts went to Madurai without Manickavasagar and told the Pandian what had happened. Knowing about Manickavasagar's action, the Pandian ordered Vadavura to return immediately. Manickavasagar prayed to the great Lord. Lord Shiva gave a ruby stone to Manickavasagar, who gave it as a gift to the king and asked him to inform him that the horses would arrive on the day of Avani Moolam. Manickavasagar also went to the king and gave him the ruby stone and informed him of the day when the horses would arrive. Avani Moolam approached. There was no sign of the horses coming. The king, not knowing the truth, thought Vadavurar was a liar and imprisoned him. Lord Shiva, the ocean of mercy, took pity. Vadavurar was determined not forgetting Shiva's feet, saying, "This is not my scope. This is Lord Shiva's scope." What he said? "This is not my scope. This is Lord Shiva's scope." Lord Shiva gathered all the foxes living in the forest near Thirupavaduthurai. That place is now known as Narikudi. He transformed all the foxes into horses with his power. He became the leader of the horsemen. The Sivanyanas became the horsemen. On the morning of Avani Moolam, he brought all those horses to the king. The king released Manickavasagar from prison. But that night, all the horses turned into foxes. The next day, the king became angry, considering Manickavasagar to be a magician. He tortured Manickavasagar by stopping him on the burning sands of the Vaigai river. Lord Shiva, who is the ocean of mercy, suddenly caused his Ganges to overflow in the Vaigai river. The Vaigai river entered the city of Madurai. Repenting that this was the result of making Vadavurar suffer, the king realized him. The flood has subsided a little. The king ordered the citizens of Madurai to block the bank of the Vaigai in their respective shares. Everyone's share was filled, but the share of an old lady named Mandi, who sells pittu in that city, was not filled. She prayed to God because she couldn't find anyone to work with. The Lord himself became a hired labor. He spent his time without working, eating the pittu food she gave him. Pandian got angry and hit the man on his back with a stick. That blow hit the backs of all souls. It hit the king too. The man who had come as a laborer poured soil into the breach and disappeared. The flood stopped completely. The Pandian understood the truth. He bowed to Manickavasagar and begged for farewell and sent him away. Manickavasagar is returned to Thiruvavaduthurai, relieved of his ministerial duties. The Pandian also remembered and appreciated the grace of God. Manickavasagar reached the Acharya Murti, who was sitting under the shade of a kurunda tree, surrounded by the gathering of sages, and he was one of the disciples. After some time, the Acharya Murti said his disciples that, well, it's the time for me to leave. And instructed them to establish a yoga pida under the shade of the kurunda tree and worship there. On the day when the Jyoti appears in the nearby pond, everyone should go to the Jyoti one by one and unite. All the sages remained silent, thinking of the great mercy of God. But Manickavasagar followed the Acharya Murti. He fell at his feet and cried because Acharya Murti is leaving. The Acharya Murti also had a great mercy on him and told him to perform the puja quietly under the shade of the kurunda tree. And when the Jyoti appears in the pond and everyone is immersed in it, he quickly left that place and reached the holy place called Thiruchitrambalam and worshipped the Lord. You'll get to all the cities there. After that, you will go and worship all the places where I am seated with the form of linga. You will see the Acharya Murti form that appears here in every place you visit. After that, you will go to Thirukkayilaya and have the Guru Darshan there. Then you will reach Thiruvavaduthurai, also known as Kokali, and receive the Sukma 5-letter Upadesam there, and then reach the light. There, you will defeat the Buddha in a debate. After that, he said, you will unite under the shadow of my feet, and disappeared before his eyes. The Manickavasagar Peruman was distrusted at the loss of his Acharya Murti. He cried, he prayed, he somehow managed to reach the gathering of sages and set up a yoga pida in the shade of a kurunda tree, established the Guru's feet there, worshipped and performed puja, and bestowed many verses of Thiruvasagam. He bestowed the verses of Sivapuranam, Arpudapattu, Adisayapattu, Chennipattu, Valapattu, Setilapattu, Arupattu, Thiruvenba, Tirupalli Elichi, Thiruvesaravu, Anandamalai, Uyirunnipattu, Prathanipattu, and Tirupandi Virutham. One day, just as the Acharya Murti had said, a Jyoti appeared in the pond. All the sages, reciting the 5-letter mantra, merged in the Jyoti. Lord Shiva appeared in the sky with Umayammai. All the disciples transformed into Sivaganas and reached Sivaloka. Sitting in the shade of the kurunda tree and in state of Sivayoga, Manickavasagar Peruman realized what had happened due to his Siva wisdom. He was heartbroken. He sang Adaikalapattu. He rushed to the shade of the kurunda tree, embraced the Guru's feet, and sang Tiruchadangam. Remembering the Acharya Murti's order, he left that place and quickly reached Thiruchitrambalam. He was distressed because he couldn't see the divine form of his Jnana Desigar. He prayed and sang Neethal Vinnapam. As per the order of Acharya Murti, he searched for him in all the places. That Acharya Murti also did not seem to be easily caught. He showed a foot here, showed a slight smile here, and in another place, He showed a magical form as if he were appearing and then hide it, and kept wandering around the Manickavasagar Perumal. He searched for him in every place, crying and begging that Mayavi did not show his full form. All the beloved has gone away with a rare wealth, and he was the only one who would still be lying on this earth and suffering. He was suffering and did not know how to see, saying, I do not know the path that leads to you. I do not know you. I do not know the way to know you. In the end, he had only one way. That was the last weapon he had. What weapon? What weapon it is? The weapon that said, if I cry, I'll get you. What is that weapon? If I cry, I will get you. He who had come to our Siddhambaram, when he saw Vedagiri, where the Vedas flourished, went in that direction. He reached the place where the Vedagiri went and ruled on a high mountain peak surrounded by emerald green forest. When he realized that the one who would come with joy and wipe away sorrow was on this mountain, he used his last weapon. What is this weapon? I'll get you by crying. And cried so loudly that even Thirukkayilaya mountain melted. Lord Siva is the one who gives what he wants to those who ask for it. He showed the form that Manickavasagar desired. Seeing it with his own eyes, he was happy inside. He was delighted and sang, Kanakkila Thirukkolam, Nee Vandu Kaatinai, Kalukundrile. If Thirupavaduthurai is the place where Manickavasagar Perumal descended from the ocean of goods into the ocean of blessings, then if Thirupavaduthurai is the place where Manickavasagar Perumal descended from the ocean of goods into the ocean of blessings, then Thirukkayilaya is the place where he was taken up to liberation. There was a boat of Jnanam called as Jnanakalam, where he ascended. The Jnanakalam is the sacred feet of the Acharya Murti. Thirukkayilaya is the lighthouse for those who have fallen into the ocean of blessings with a desire to gain wisdom. Thirukkayilaya is the place that gives the maturity to get rid of birth and attain liberation. Thirukkayilaya is the place of wisdom. The Manickavasagar Perumal describes the vision he saw as an incalculable form, a form that will be possessed, a form that comes without being disturbed, a form that was unseen, a form that was recited, and a form that came before the devotees. What is the form that the Manickavasagar Perumal saw with his eyes and was delighted with? பிணக்கிலாத பெருந்துரை பெருமான் உன்னாமங்கள் பேசுவார்க்கு இணைக்கிலாததார் இன்பமே வரும் துன்பமே துடைத்தம் பிரான் உனக்கிலாததோர் வித்து மேல்விளையாமல் என்வினை ஒத்தப்பின் கணக்கிலா திருக்கோலம் நீ வந்து காட்டினாய் கழுக்குன்றிலே. Manickavasagar Perumal says, you have come and shown me an innumerable form of you. What is that innumerable form of Lord Shiva? That was the form of the Acharya Murti's figure who had gave Upadesam to him that day under the shade of Kurunda tree and had given him the wisdom for his sadhanas. What kind of form? Kanakkila Thirukkolam. He is shown by countless forms as his Acharya form. As Siva in the form of Swarupa Siva, as Siva in the form of Tadatha Siva, as Siva in the form of divine Sivanyanam, as Siva in the form of Sivalingam that is installed and worshipped in the temple, and as all the 25 Sivamurtis that appears from time to time to the shake of Siva devotees in the form they desire and grant them grace and disappear. That is what? பரபிரம்மம் இவன் என்றும் பரசிவன் தான் என்றும் பரஞானம் இவன் என்றும் பராபரன் தான் என்றும் அரண் தரும் சீர்நிலையெல்லாம் இவனே என்றும் அருட்குருவை வழிபடவே அவனிவன் தானாயே. Says Sivayan Siddhya. Lord Shiva, who transcends all matter and possesses numerical qualities, appeared as his Acharya Murti. The pure Shiva, who performs the 5 duties together with Umaya mind, is shown as his Acharya Murti. The Laya Shiva, the supreme Jnana form with the Jnana Sakti, was shown as his Acharya Murti. The Bhoga Shiva, the supreme being of everything, joined with his Ichcha Sakti, shown as his Acharya Murti. The Adhikara Shiva, the supreme power of all glory, joined with the Kriya Sakti, was shown as his Acharya Murti. The first Guru of wisdom, who taught and bestowed wisdom upon him, was shown as his Acharya Murti. The Supreme Lord Shiva, the Acharya Murti. Due to this, his devotion increased beyond measure. He wanted not only men, but also women and children to engage in and enjoy this love way of worshipping Lord Shiva. He sang various songs for this. He sang songs about Shiva being the supreme being, using various mythological stories and his own personal experiences. While visiting every places in his way, he also visited and worshipped at many of the solar country. He went to places like Thiruvarur. In this way, he reached Thiruvidaimarudhu. There, he had a vision of Thiruvadi. After that, he reached Thiruvavaduthurai, also known as Kokali, where Masila Maniswara resides under the papal tree, where ascetics like Thirumular attained enlightenment, having the ability to eradicate the Pasutuvam of those who surrender to it. Having special name because of cow, the abode of the Jnanis. As had happened before in Tirupavaduthurai, he received subtle Panchakara Upadesam from Gurumani here under the papal tree. He sang the verse that begins with Jyotiye Chudare. He prayed, fell down, got up, danced, sang, and cried. He changed the 5-letter mantra that he had been saying until now and prized it. He became a great lover of Lord Shiva. He forgot himself and went towards Nadaraja Perumal, the Lord of Thillai. While Manickavasagar Perumal was in Thillai and practicing Muttipanchakara system, a king of Eelam arrived in Thillai with his mute daughter and wife, along with the Buddhas who did not even want to hear the word Ponnambalam. There is a saying, if we pronounce Ponnambalam once, it is equivalent to reciting the 5-letter mantra 21,600 times. But those Buddhas not even want to hear the word. How ignorant they are, isn't it? The king of Eelam challenged the people there to a debate with the aim of spreading Buddhism. By the grace of the Kutaperan, Manickavasagar Perumal argued with the Buddhist priest and won the debate. Then, at the request of the Buddha king, he made his mute daughter speak. Thus, the influence of Buddhism in South was eliminated by our Swami. The truths of Saivism were established. Through him, the true religious clarity became clear to everyone at that period. Lord Shiva wanted to convey Manickavasagar Perumal's greatness and the glory of Jnana Margam to the householders and those in the asceticism while he was in Thillai. Shiva reached Manivasagar in the form of an Antanar and wrote down the entire Thiruvasagam, saying that he belonged to Pandya kingdom. Then, in order to convey the Sivananda experience, In order to convey the Sivananda experience, he asked for Kovai book to be sung. Manickavasagar blessed the book called Thirukkayilaya. After writing the books, Thiruvavaduthurai and Thirukkayilaya, he signed the mass written by the beautiful Thiruchitrambalam as told by Manickavasagar and placed them in the Panchakrapadi of Sitsabai. And Lord Shiva disappeared before anyone could see him. The Brahmins of Thillai, who had come to perform puja early in the morning, found the old Ishwari, that is palm leaf manuscript, in a Panchakrapadi. They were happy to see Ambalavanar's signature on them. They rushed to the residence of the Manickavasagar Perumal. They requested him to explain the meaning of the song he had sung. Manickavasagar Perumal went to the Thiruchitrambalam with all of them and pointed out that the meaning of these songs are Ambalavanar's Thiruvadi and merged Lord Siva's Thiruvadi on Aanimamagam. Thus, the 8th Tirumurai Thiruvasagam and Thirukkayilaya are the glorious ones given by God through Manickavasagar. The history of Manickavasagar can be known through the Puranas, Thiruvilayadal Puranam, Thiruvavaduthurai Puranam, Thiruuttaragosamangai Puranam, and Thirupavaduthurai Puranam. There were differences in the history told in the Puranas. There is no difference that Thiruvavaduthurai is the place where Manickavasagar took incarnation. Vadavoorinil Vandini Darali Pada Chilambuli Katiya Panbu. He claims to have heard the Sivaboda Silambuli in Vadavur. Thirupavaduthurai news is spoken in Kirti Tiragaval after Thiruvavaduthurai news. Nathan will appear only after the revelation of Nathan, isn't it? All the history says that Thiruvasagam and Thirukkayilaya were sung in Thillai. Some people say that Manickavasagar did not sing Thirukkayilaya and that someone like him sang it later. But the 300th verse of Thirukkayilaya makes us think that after singing the Thiruvasagam, Manickavasagar sang Thirukkayilaya and that he sang both texts as one part without forgetting the Lord even for a moment. Continued to sing with a single memory that was in his heart. There are many similarities between Thiruvasagam and Thirukkayilaya. The plays sung in Thiruvasagam are also sung in Thirukkayilaya. As the Thiruvasagam suggests us to think Kogali as Thiruvavaduthurai, we can see that the phrase Arasambalam also occurs in Kovayar, along with the Thillai and Peru, referring to Thiruvavaduthurai, where the pepple tree is the sacred tree. The people of the world live on one of the two paths. What are they? The people of the world live on one of two paths, household and ascetic. Manickavasagar has conveyed the wisdom path to those who follow the householder path through Thirukkayilaya, and to those who follow the ascetic path through Thiruvasagam. The Thiruvasagam express the process of seeking out a guru and receiving Upadesam. The Kalavu section of Thirukkayilaya expresses the process of practicing that path, and the Karpu section expresses the experience received from the benefits of Guru Upadesam. The Thiruvasagam conveys one side of the path of wisdom, where the soul experiences itself as Lord Shiva beloved and Siva as its lover, while the Thirukkayilaya conveys another side of wisdom, where the soul experiences Siva as its beloved and the soul itself as his lover. Manickavasagar sought to attain God through the path of wisdom from his young age. His history emphasized that this requires the grace of Acharya. He listened to Silambuli in Vadavur, saw the power of the Siva path in Uttaragosamangai, received the grace of Acharya in Thirupavaduthurai, and got Thula Panchakra Upadesam, and received Upadesama Sukuma Panchakram in Kogali, that is Thiruvavaduthurai, continued that path and attain the blessings of Sivanandam in Thilayambadi by standing on the path of Mukti Panchakaram. In the 5th verses of Pandayan Anmarai, the 3 places of Peruthurai, Kogali, and Uttaragosamangai are mentioned as 3 different places. Manickavasagar, who prayed at Thiruperundurai, saying, Peruniri Katai, show me the wise path, was then reached at Kogali. Manickavasagar said thank you to Kogali Peruman as Kokali in Komark Ninjame Undo Kaimaru Urai. He has mentioned the name of Kogali Peruman in the phrase Masila Maniyin Manivarthai. Then Manickavasagar says that in Koyil Mutapadigam, he followed the path taught by Kogali Peruman. Munindru Andai Yenai Munnam Yanum Aduve Uyalvutru Pinnindru Eval Segindrain. So, before Thillai, Manickavasagar received the Upadesam in Kogali. In the second song of Koyil Mutha Tirupadigam, Manickavasagar mentions the special privilege of being in the Mukti Panchakara state. Can we see the verse now? Udayal Undran Naduvirukkum, Udayal Nadugul Niyiruthi, Adiyin Nadugul Iruvirum Irupadanal, Adiyin Mun, Adiyar Naduvil Irukkum Arulai Puriyai. Manickavasagar stayed in Thiruvavaduthurai for 16 years, then worked in Madurai for a few years, then undertook a pilgrimage for a few years, and then reached Thillai and attained liberation at the age of 32. We said that he stayed in Thillai for 4 years. So far, we have discussed the divine history of Manickavasagar. Through this, it is clear that we should love, receive grace, and attain enlightenment, isn't it? But how to love, how to receive grace, and how to attain enlightenment as a common person? Let's discuss. We know that living beings are divided into 6 categories from 1 knowledge to 6 knowledge according to a level of maturity. Thus, it is clear that the discrimination of souls is based on their knowledge. In the birth of 6 knowledge beings, as humans, asuras, sags, devadas, the human being is capable of gradually transcending the emotional state and reaching the real state beyond the intellectual state by performing sadhanas. Emotional, intellectual, and real. These are the 3 status. These are the 3 states. Unarchi nilai, Arivu nilai, Meykanda nilai. So, emotion is different, intellectual is different, wisdom or real stage is different. Wisdom is what we need to achieve. Sri Manickavasagar Peruman is the one who can transcend the emotional stage and reach the real stage beyond the intellectual stage. In 8th Thirumarai, blessed by Sri Manickavasagar Peruman, tells us how enlightenment will happen to those who have attained enlightenment and what they will do. Having received such a special human birth, we should learn to live our lives by practicing good morals, such as speaking the truth, trying to see the truth, not causing suffering to others, practicing many virtues, and not acting under the influences of the 5 senses. Virtue alone can bring down the poisonous tree of desire or maya. That is what Thiruvalluvar said. Discipline is the lifeblood of the body. What Thiruvalluvar says, discipline is the lifeblood of the body. Not everyone can acquire all such virtues in a single birth. The circumstances for this will arise in many births. One can use his intelligence to shape all available circumstances into opportunities for virtue. This virtue is the first step that will lead a person to the path of grace. Jainism and Buddhism strongly embraces this moral code. In this way, we can clearly know that the society will be united and good forever. Thus, it can be seen that external religions, which are based on morality, are the first step towards the path of wisdom, known as Sanmarkam. In this first step called as Purapuram, external religions, there are 6 layers such as Lokayutham. All of these are prevalent in the path of wisdom. Those who argue that this is the correct path can be called as Prakrit, ordinary intellectual. How do they call it? Called Prakrit, ordinary intellectuals. That is Pragrita Samaniya Buddhimangal. Since this first step also contributes to the development of knowledge, all 6 religions from Lokayutham to Arukradam can be called external religions. People who followed the moral teachings of these religions were sometimes dismayed by the fact that they were unable to solve the sufferings in their lives with their own knowledge. Why did I have to suffer like this? I didn't do anything wrong to anyone. I just wanted everyone to be well. They wondered why I had such sufferings. They wandered around searching for the way to end suffering. They realized that they do not have much knowledge to change the situation all the time. They came to conclusion that they needed wisdom that could change any situation and bring it under their control. They realized that the knowledge they had acquired was incomplete and needed to be supplemented by greater knowledge. Those who have reached that level of knowledge are called Prakrit special intellectuals, Pragrita Visheda Buddhimangal. The 6 religions followed by them were called Purachamayangal, that is external religions. They are called from Tarkika to Pancharathirar. They gradually developed their knowledge through reasoning and believed that there is a God above the soul. Their status is the second milestone on the path of wisdom development. The second stage in the path of wisdom attainment. Many people have applied their intellect to it, believing that the path of wisdom is the best. Their intellectual development reached the level of intellectual perfection. We can call them intellectual perfectionalists, Kalainjana Siddhiyargal. The religious disciplines they observed were of 6 types. The scriptures call these 6 people of religion as internal region, Akapura Chamaya. Those who follow these 6 paths are called by names ranging from Avaidika Pasubhadar to Aikyavada Saiva. That people do not give priority to the first element, but rather to power of the first element. This is the wisdom of appreciating the sunlight that one is currently experiencing without considering the sun. This stage has helped one develop spiritual knowledge to the point of appreciating the power of God. This is the 3rd stage. Furthermore, the growth of knowledge continued unabated. As a result, 6 sects called internal religions arose. These are described from Padanavada Saivam to Sivatvida Saivam. Although these 6 types of people belong to the Saivism, they do not have their unified ideology within themselves. They are called as philosophical Siddhis, Sivanyana Siddhudayar. They are more advanced in philosophical development than the 18th region mentioned earlier. However, while they follow the same path of Saivism, they clash with each other, considering their minor differences to be big. Therefore, their development of knowledge is a philosophy that shows multiple conclusions, not an ideology that leads to a single conclusion. Their conclusions are Vedantam, and not Siddhanda. The wisdom is and their sadhanas are not certain. So this path also become crooked. This is the fourth step. So the path of wisdom that is free from bias, that possesses the principle of everyone, that is capable of pointing out the weakness in each other's principles, that is covering much enough to surround out all others' principles, that leaves no room for doubt, that is well researched and clear enough to surround everything. That is a philosophy that was spoken by Lord Shiva in the beginning. That is a conclusion that even opponents agree with. That is nothing superior to itself. That is applicable to any time, any country, and any situation. And that is clearly agreed upon with the Vedas, Upanishad, Agamas, and scriptures is called the path of Siddhanta Saivism. It has the unique glory of being established by Lord Shiva and Sivañanis who were enlightened by Lord Shiva. Thus, it is clear that Siddhanta Saivism is the best way to attain liberation. This happens in 4 ways: Sariyai, Kiriyai, Yogam, and Jnanam. To attain liberation, Sivabodham is essential. Religions are many forms because the grace of the people must attain that Sivabodham. The grace that all people must attain this Sivabodham, whether in this birth or in many births. The methods for attaining Suddha Advaita Siddhanta Mukti in this one birth are explained in Siddhanta Saivism. The truth is that all religions are steps on ways to achieve Siddhanta Saivism. Siddhanta Saivism includes all religions. It has no enmity with any religions. There is only friendship. It supports all religions. It supports all religions in 4 types of relationship. That is internal, extra-internal, external, and extra-external. Agam, Agapuram, Puram, Purapuram. This is the path of blameless wisdom. This is called Sanmargam. This is the path followed by Sri Manickavasagar Perumal. When he followed these, the people from outer religion to inner religion moved him. In order to make them realize the truth, our Manickavasagar Perumal showed that he did not abandon his path of Siddhantam and continued to pursue it despite their slander, achieving Suddha Advaita Siddhanta Mukti. This path has been explained clearly, simply, and without contradiction by Sri Meykanda Nayanar in the Siddhanta Sastra book called Sivajnana Bodham. Meykanda Sastra is like looking at literature and giving it a grammar. The life of Sri Manickavasagar and his 8 Tirumurai verses serves as literature for Sivajnana Bodham. Sivajnana Bodham has 2 sections, general and special. In the same way, the life of our Swami is divided into 2 parts. The worldly period before the revelation of the Guru in the shade of the Kurunda tree, and the wisdom period after that. The books blessed by our Swami also too, Thiruvavaduthurai and Thirukkayilaya. Of these, one book is arranged in such a way as to tell the sadhanas, and the next book, the benefits. Just as Sri Meykanda Nayanar has composed his Jnana Sastra as the essence of the Vedas, our Swami has composed this book as a Vedic essence. He wrote the principles of the 4 Vedas in 4 long sections on the front of the Thiruvavaduthurai, and then sang other verses as an extension of them. Even if we examine each book separately, the sections in the Thiruvavaduthurai that are labeled as Agaval stand on the path of the Vedas and convey the truth of God, while all the verses in the other sections convey the Sastra norms that explains how to reach that God. If we examine Thirukkayilaya, it has 2 parts, that all the verses in the Kalavu section are focused on the vision of God, and all the verses in Karpu section are about attaining God and experiencing pleasure. The Thiruvavaduthurai begins by saying that the Adi mentioned in the Sivanyana Bodhisastra is Namashivaya. Just as the final sutra of the Sivanyana Bodham states that the benefit of taking the birth is Malam Kaluvi Aranadi Toludale. In the same way, the final verses of Thirukkayilaya also ends by saying that Udal Thindu Thillai Talaivane Kududal. Udal Thindu Thillai Talaivane Kududal. Sivanyana Bodham Jnaniyiyal illustrates the 5-letter mantra in 3 forms. In the same way, the Vedic life of our Swami goes through the 5 great places of Thiruvavaduthurai, Thiruchitrambalam, Thirupperinturai, Thiruaavaduthirai, and Thirukkayilaya. Our Swami received the 5-letter Upadesam at 3 places: Thirupperinturai, Thiruaavaduthirai, and Thirukkayilaya. Our Swami has helped to dispel the ignorance of people like us by living 3 different lives. Each has its own unique qualities: political experience, wisdom experience, and bliss experience. Just as 51 letters in Sanskrit emerged from the Nada Tattva and explained into the Vedic Agamas, described 3 elements and liberation, Thiruvavaduthurai originated from Thillai Peruman in Tamil language as 51 Padigas and is expanded into a sacred text telling the 3 elements truth and liberation. Manickavasagar took incarnation to show the world the nature of Suddha Advaita Siddhanda Mukti, to make us realize that there is nothing better than that. I conclude our today's discussion now by worshipping and rejoicing at the feet of Srila Guru Maha Sannidhanam, which have given me the privilege of contemplating and rejoicing in the Sivaboda life of Sri Manickavasagar. Sivaboda Thiruchitrambalam.